Welcome to the North Korean-South Korean border, otherwise known as the Demilitarized Zone, the DMZ. This place is heavily guarded with numerous armed troops with machine guns walking up and down the roads with checkpoints, helicopters, and Humvees. You can also enter a former North Korean secret tunnel that was found by the South Koreans. It is very claustrophobic, pretty long, and it also gets pretty hot inside as well. But let's see how the North Korean-South Korean issue started with a little history right now. The Korean peninsula had been one peninsula for several hundreds of years, but in the early 1900s, the Japanese came in and annexed the entire peninsula from 1910 until 1945. At the end of World War II in 1945, the Japanese said that they would leave the Korean peninsula, but the Soviets and the Americans, who were now allies, wanted to make sure that they were going to leave. So the Soviets took the northern part of the peninsula, and the Americans took the southern part. At the end of 1945, the Japanese did leave the Korean peninsula, but the Soviets and the Americans were no longer allies and were now enemies due to the Cold War now starting. The Soviets installed a communist government in the north, and the Americans installed a democratic government in the south. By 1949, most of the Americans had left South Korea, and most of the Soviets had left North Korea. But President Truman, as seen behind me, stated that the following countries in Asia would receive American protection if attacked. This included the Philippines and Japan, but South Korea was not mentioned. Kim Il-sung, the leader of North Korea, believed the Americans would not support the South Koreans if they were attacked. Kim Il-sung then asked the Soviet leader Joseph Stalin for permission to invade South Korea, as he believed he could crush the South Koreans within a matter of weeks and then unite the peninsula under one rule: communist rule. Stalin said okay. In June of 1950, the North Koreans invaded South Korea and within a matter of weeks had pushed the South Koreans all the way towards the ocean in the southern part of the country, and they were about to be defeated. President Harry Truman sent a massive military response, and within a couple of months, the Americans had pushed the North Koreans completely out of South Korea. The Americans kept fighting the North Koreans and then pushed them all the way towards the Chinese border. By October of 1950, Chairman Mao of China sent 300,000 troops to the Chinese-North Korean border, and then a couple of weeks later gave the signal for China to enter North Korea. The Chinese started fighting the Americans and South Koreans, and within a couple of months were able to push them out of North Korea. For the next 2.5 years, the Chinese and North Koreans would fight the Americans and South Koreans until July of 1953, when an agreement was signed to stop fighting. The length of the border is about 160 miles long, and there is a massive amount of South Korean troops, North Korean troops, as well as American and United Nations troops very close to the border. In this example right here, there's about 200,000 South Korean military personnel within 20 miles of the DMZ, and with North Korea, there's about 750,000 within about 60 miles of the DMZ. The tunnel we are currently in was formerly built by the North Koreans and was in secret, but a defector informed the South Koreans about the tunnel. But the South Koreans couldn't find it for about 4 more years. And since today's date, 2025, there have been 4 secret North Korean tunnels that have been discovered by the South Koreans. This one is the longest, the most elaborate. And when you walk through it, I was amazed at how hot it got inside. And due to being 240 feet below the surface, the lower you get into the Earth's surface, the warmer it gets. I didn't know that. And you will eventually reach the end of the tunnel and you will see a concrete wall. This is one of 3 concrete walls that have been built by South Korea. And on the video screen, which is hard to see, on the top left video monitor, that is the border with North and South Korea. There's a little kind of hole there. The South Koreans did build a concrete wall to block off North Koreans from entering. But kind of neat to see that is exactly where the border is located, and where we are currently standing, we are 557 feet from North Korea. Now they do have motion sensors, so if the North Koreans did try to enter, the South Koreans would be alerted that they are trying to enter the country. But very unique experience to be in this area. A little bit tense as well. It's kind of uncomfortable being in this claustrophobic type of tunnel, and for the most part, I did okay, but it was a little creepy at times as it gets very narrow. It's not that high, and I had to bend over for most of it. I'm only 5'9", and the height is about 5'9" as well, but there's just too many rock walls right above you and near you, and it was a little creepy at times. To exit the North Korean tunnel, you have to go through another tunnel, which was built by the South Koreans just to reach the North Korean one. It's also very long at about 1/4 of a mile, but eventually you do reach the end, but your legs are hurting as it's an 11% incline to exit, and it's just a lengthy walk, and most of us when we were walking through it were sweating as we weren't prepared for it, and it was a great experience but a little bit creepy at times as it's super narrow. So if you do get claustrophobic, I would advise against it. Next up, we're going to check a minefield. We are currently at an area that is blocked off due to unidentified landmines. And if we stand up a little bit, there's even a larger fence. This is the border of North and South Korea that is electrified. If we walk over here, hopefully you can see it, but it has barbed wire on top as well. I've been told there's even more landmines on the other side of the fence. We have military bunkers, which I can't show, with South Korean troops. I have one soldier looking at me right now. Maybe I'm a little too close, but we are definitely at the North Korean, South Korean border. Very tense, lots of cameras as well, and a little bit shocking about the landmines. I didn't know that part, but I'm gonna stop recording. Got a soldier waving me off from the fence. We are currently at the Dora Observatory, which overlooks the actual line between North and South Korea from an elevated position. Let's go check it out. The Dora Observatory has a really good view of North and South Korea, and you can kind of see the fence line on the right side of our screen. That's what separates both countries. Right now, we're basically looking at all of North Korea, and in those mountains in the distance, they have a massive amount of artillery as well as rocket launchers. And due to Seoul only being about 30 miles away from the border, I was told that North Korea could cause a massive amount of damage and death if war breaks out due to Seoul being within range of their artillery. The fence line that we can partially see to the left and coming into view right now does curve hard right towards the middle portion, which we cannot see, but that is why North Korea is also on the top portion of the screen and basically covers most of the viewpoint from this area. It's a very unique experience to be so close to North Korea. In fact, I could see a person riding their bicycle. You can't see it from this image, but it was neat to see someone riding their bike pretty close to the borderline. And there are also a lot of landmines. I was told that the North Koreans do not do foot patrols by the fence line due to the amount of landmines that they have planted right next to the fence line. But that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed this really unique film on the North Korean, South Korean DMZ, and I'll be closing it out with a group of soldiers that I was able to talk with. They spoke pretty good English just outside of the DMZ, and took a quick video with them, followed by a quick photograph. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of the day.